Got a little wardrobe change going between my two rank breakdown episodes. Pinky and the Brain. That's a fun shirt. Didn't even wait for a fun shirt Friday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Vespris. This show is brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. And you can find me on the Twitters at Dan Vespris, DANBESBRIS. Check out our sponsors. Check out the socials. Please like, rate, and subscribe. That's a big deal. Every time somebody watches a show, every time somebody likes one, every time somebody comments, subscribes, whatever, that tells these juggernaut websites, hey, this is a show people like. And then they show it to other people. That's how we get bigger. And that's how I can continue to forge ahead with all of this stuff for free forever. That and the $1 Patreon that I don't care if you guys sign up for, but that is Patreon / Old Man Squad, I think. I don't even know how to promo it. Let's take a look at the board. This is what the new Yahoo second round looks like. We're covering that on today's program. Got to zoom in a little bit so you can see the names. Starts with Domantas Sabonis at 13, then moves on to Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell, both of whom jumped way up the board. Steph Curry at 16, also way up, as is Evan Mobley at 17. Tyrese Maxey holding relatively firm at number 18. Amen Thompson up a bunch to 19. Jalen Brunson back into the second round. He's been flip-flopping between the second and the third at 20. Jalen Williams, pretty consistent. He's at 21. I think he fell a couple of spots there. Alperen Sengun back down the board a bit. He's at 22. Chet Holmgren pushes into the second round for the first time, and Jalen Johnson sliding, I think, one spot. We'll double-check ourselves on that when we get to him at the end of the program. He's down at 24. That's the new second round on Yahoo. You can see LeBron James on your screen. He's number 25. We might do a little honorable mention on Bron, since apparently he's just put out a teaser that he's about to make some sort of additional decision on life. We don't know what the hell that's going to be about. Probably do a short on that at some point. Another good reason to subscribe if you want me yelling in your face for 55 seconds at a time. Or if you don't, yeah, you wouldn't be alone. Here's Domantas Sabonis coming off a 19-14 year. He also had 6 assists a game last season, and yet it didn't feel that satisfying. It's hard to exactly pinpoint why, other than a little bit more of a dive on what Sabonis' season really looked like. And the answer is his season kind of teetered as it went on. Not that he wasn't good, but he was a bona fide turn-level guy. Like, he was top 12 for the first half of the season, basically. And then the Kings shook everything up. Traded De'Aaron Fox, coaching change, all that stuff. And suddenly, Domantas Sabonis went from a guy who, for the, let's call it the first, do you want to say 2 months of the season? Doesn't really matter. We're just sort of eyeballing it a little bit now. Say October to December was number 9. He was averaging 21, 13.5, 6 assists on 60% from the field and 79%, which was basically a career high at the free throw line at that point. It was a career high. And then, and I'm trying to scroll so people can see it on the YouTube side, the second half of the year, final, call it the last 35, 40 games, he averaged just 17.5 points, still 13.5 rebounds, so that didn't fluctuate, still right around 6 assists. Steals and blocks came down, but that was never a reason you had him anyway. Field goal percent down to 58, free throw down to 72.5. And it begs the question, who is the real Domantas Sabonis, and how much of what we saw that we didn't like in the second half of last year was related to adjustments, personnel-related adjustments, not Zach LaVine coming in instead of De'Aaron Fox, coaching changes, all that good stuff. They brought in Dennis Schroeder this offseason. I don't know how much that impacts things. Does get him an actual point guard again. Does that help? Does that hurt? It's hard to know. But to me, for a long time, and if you guys have been watching this show, you heard me saying over and over again, I think Domantas Sabonis is a great second-round pick and a terrible first-round pick. And the reason I frame it like that is he was so good at rebounding last year. Hyper elite, best in the NBA, very good at assists for a center, but not as high as he's been in the past, and very solid at field goal percent, giving him 3 strong categories, 2 very, very strong categories, and then assists, positionally was a good one. but he's not a big scorer. He doesn't hit three-pointers. His defensive stats are lacking. His free throw percent is unpleasant, and his turnovers are somewhat high because the Kings run offense through him. So you're talking about a guy that was 3 really, really good categories and 5 kind of bad ones and 1 sort of hovering kind of in the middle. Points, I guess, is in the middle. But for a second rounder, not that great there either. For a first rounder, quite bad. So it's a really hard player to build around if he's your first round pick. However, if you can get someone else before him and Sabonis becomes your pairing guy, however you want to frame it, then it makes a lot more sense. And we just did a show on the first round earlier today, recording these two at the same, kind of in the same general breath. Like if you start with a Devin Booker and forget roto or head-to-head for a minute, you've got 7 assists out of a guard, which is pretty good, but not overwhelming. You've got good percentages on both. Not a ton of three-pointers, but good scoring. You're going to get good scoring. What does that mean? Can you pair Domantas Sabonis with him? Sure, absolutely. Roto, you're going to need to shore up defensive stats. Head-to-head, maybe you don't. What about you go small big? That's a Roto staple. Test true, tried and true through the beginnings of time. James Harden, Domantas Sabonis. You're probably punting points maybe at that point, but you got a bad field goal guy. You got a good field goal guy. You got a great free throw guy. You got a free throw guy. Good three-point guy. Bad three-point guy. Bad scoring. Bad scoring. Pretty good rebounding for a guard. Very good rebounding for a big. Big assists for both. Good steals and blocks for a guard. Bad steals and blocks for a big man. So that's the Domantas Sabonis conundrum. He makes no sense at all as a first pick, but he makes a lot of sense as a second round pick, as the, generally, in my opinion, more of the sort of roto para big with a small, or if you want to go head to head in more of a punt blocks big man build, that's the direction you could go with it as well. So I don't mind Sabonis at this general area. I don't know that I would take him as my first pick of the second round, with a couple of these other names still out there that we're going to cover in a moment. But as far as like early to mid second rounders go, yeah, he makes sense. When I mess this up here. No, it is Kevin Durant next. Yeah, Kevin Durant is next on the board. Can you believe it? Yeah, I know. I can believe it because we've been yelling about it for a while, and then suddenly it happened. KD is back where he belongs. Why he was down in the late 20s to early 30s for a while, I have no idea. This is a dude, and I mean, it's injury related, so I have an idea of why he was there, but it's weird to put so much of that prediction on a guy who's going to try to play in every game. That's the KD way. Houston is going to have to like tie him. They're going to have to chain him to a radiator if they don't want him to get himself into a ball game, or he actually has to be truly hurt. Because KD's not going to go take rest days. Not unless the Rockets lock up like a top 2 seed and you've got a few games that don't matter down the stretch. So it's going to be whether or not he gets injured. If you're wondering why someone like a Kawhi slides into the 40s, it's because you know he's going to start the year aiming to play in 68 ball games. Kevin Durant starts the year aiming to play in 82. And yeah, he hasn't gotten there much lately because he's old and built like a tarantula. But he's going to try, damn it. He's also going to do a ton. If you thought he did a ton in Phoenix, he did not. So look for KD to post a whopper of a fantasy season. I think he's a top 8 per game guy this year. And so now you're doing the whole like, all right, well, how many games do I got to get out of him for this thing to work? If he's top 8, can I get... Look, if KD plays in 65 games this year, your team will survive. Taking him in the second round. Taking him in the third obviously would have been the greatest thing on earth. It was one of my favorite moments in fantasy basketball history when leagues opened and you could get KD in the third round. But in expert leagues, you weren't getting him there anyway. So sure, early to mid-second round, that's exactly where he belongs. This is totally fine. It's sad because life was more fun when you could get him way later, but this is where he should be. And this is where I remind you that over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Rockets season win total is 52.5, and you have to decide how much does the lack of Freddie VanVleet hurt this team in overall wins. And I think the answer is some. They need him. They're going to miss him. And I think they're going to probably try to address it at some point, but they haven't yet. So while I really liked Houston, they were going to be one of the teams that I was going hard on the over. The Van Vliet injury tips me just a little bit back the other way. Where KD, I think, is where he belonged, Donovan Mitchell may have overshot just a little bit. He was number 35 last year, and I've been saying a lot throughout the whole offseason that I thought he was due for a bounce-back year. But I don't know about getting all the way back to here. And the reason why is I'm still not sure that what we saw his first 2 years in Cleveland was truly sustainable, meaning he shot 48% from the field his first year with the Cavs with 1.9 combined defensive stats. He had never gotten above 1.8 with the Jazz, which he did twice. And as his time in Utah continued, he was actually closer to 1.2, 1.3 a lot of that time. The following year in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell was at 1.8 steals alone, 2.3 combined defensive stats, while still shooting 46% from the field. Now, this past year, down came the field goal percent, down came the free throw percent, down came the defensive stats, down came the minutes. Darius Garland is likely to be hurt to start the year. We don't know for how long. I think the hope is that it's just a couple of weeks. That'll help Mitchell a little bit. I think Donovan Mitchell shoots better at the free throw line this coming year. I don't know about the field goal percent. I don't know about the steals and blocks. I thought we had enough evidence there to assume that a kind of a positive swing for Donovan Mitchell would have gotten him back into the second round. But I don't think I'm on board with right at the very beginning of the second round. That was where he was going last year when we were looking at him like, all right, I guess like this guy gets 1.5 to 1.8 steals every year now. And now I don't think we can say that anymore. We can't say that anymore because he didn't do it this past year. And as much as I do think the Cavs play closer games, so that's probably an extra minute or two for Donovan on the court, overall, Cleveland doesn't want to overplay their big guns. Like they don't, this was a low number last year, 31 and some odd, 31 and a half minutes a game. But like they don't want to get him to 35, 36, the way that he had the 2 years prior in Cleveland. They would rather him be 33, something in that neck of the woods. More like the Utah numbers for Donovan Mitchell, 33, 34. It's small, but it matters. And so I was pretty excited when I thought we could get Donovan Mitchell in the third round because I was like, oh, I think this guy's probably going to be, top 20-ish range. Maybe you give him a little bit of a buffer. Now I think we're actually taking him too early. Steph Curry next on the board, another player that was for a very long time going painfully low. He opened up at 26. He slid to 27, then 28, and now he jumps all the way to 16, which, by the way, still not high enough, but it is a lot closer. So again, we can mourn the fact that we lost a round of value on Steph, but this was a guy that was number 9 in 9 category leagues last year. He was far better than that down the stretch last season when he was top 5. Basically, all that changed was that he started to make his shots at a 47% clip instead of more like 43 or 44. We've seen Steph cruise along in the high 40s for a very long time, so I'm not going to put it past him to do it again. We have to hope that the steals hold. They came back for Steph this year after kind of trending down a little bit. He was down at just 0.7, not this season, but the prior one, and it jumped back up to 1.1, which is, mind you, a hell of a lot closer to his career mark in steals, but 0.9, 0.7, the 2 years before this 1.1, it started to look more like maybe Steph was going to be an under 1 steal a game guy. Can't say I know for sure what's going to happen there. I hope it's in the 0.9 to 1.2 range. That would be more than enough to get it done. He also has been pretty healthy lately. He missed 12 games this year, only 8 the year before. He's gone through his stretches. And he's an old goat, so, anything can happen. But I think Steph in the middle of the second round is a steal. If you guys start to look at my buckets, they're not done yet. I'm like 35, 40 players deep, and I want to get through like 150 or so. I've got Steph up in bucket 5 with Booker and Durant and a punt turnover Cade Cunningham. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's basically like players 9 through 12 effectively on my board, and Steph is among them. So I think this is a good spot to get Steph, and I'm less worried about his health than Kevin Durant. Also on the list of guys that made a nice push forward is Evan Mobley, who's up to number 17 now after sitting. I mean, he's moved a little bit himself. Mobley was 24, fell to 27, now up to 17. So he started at the very end of the second round, fell into the beginning of the third. Now he bumps back into the middle of the second round. And honestly, like, did we overshoot by a tiny bit? Probably. He was number 23 last year. 18.5 points, 9 boards, 2.5 defensive stats, 3 assists, good field goal percent, meh, free throw. Did he play the full complement of minutes that he was able to? Probably not. It's a little bit of the same discussion we just had about Donovan Mitchell a minute ago, which is Mobley played about 30 minutes, 30 seconds, give or take, this past year. And some of that had to do with the Cavs having, 20 to 25 blowout wins over the course of the season. So, yeah, he could play an extra minute or two. I just don't know how much it's going to matter. This year was, by all accounts, kind of the best of all worlds for Mobley. He had his highest usage rate ever, almost 13 shots in only 30.5 minutes. His free throw percent was the best of his career. His three-point situation was basically the best of his career. Assists tied the best. Blocks, steals, all of that was basically right in line with what you'd expect. So, I mean, a minute or two more, what would it help? Hard to say because the Cavs were such a steam train that it almost felt like Mobley got everything he would normally get in 32 minutes in 30.5. So I think last year was kind of what it was, and that was good. That was really good. We had a lot of Mobleys last year, and it panned out. And now you kind of have to take him where you think he's going to be. There's no value on this play. Evan Mobley is a perfectly fine middle of the second round guy because, look, last year he was 23, but 4 guys in front of him are out for the year. And Kawhi Leonard is sort of the one guy you can point at behind him on the board and say, yes, I feel pretty confident that without a, 4-week ramp up for Kawhi, he would be ahead of Evan Mobley in per game rankings. But like Nikola Vucevic might fall out of the top 20. So, I mean, artificially, Mobley should probably be like number 19. So 17, 19, who gives a crap? It's the same thing. Like, don't split hairs on this. This is fine. Evan Mobley, 17, solid second round big man. Don't think about it too much. All right. I mentioned it earlier in the show. I'll mention it again. We got a couple of partners here on the program, and I want to give a shout out to each of them. First of all, our buddies over at fantrax.com/oldmansquad. That's the link you want to use. It's in the show description. fantrax.com/oldmansquad. Fantrax is Fantrax, by the way. And it's just like Yahoo. It's just like ESPN. It's a fantasy site that hosts leagues. You don't have to do anything different. You can go there. You just create leagues. You sign up for leagues, whatever. It's free to register, just like Yahoo and ESPN. You don't have to buy in on anything. But Fantrax is just better. It's better commissioner tools. It's better treasurer tools. It's just a better full season fantasy experience. It's where we've always hosted listener leagues on top of everything else. It's where I hosted my mock drafts. Like, it's the place to go. Check them out. Fantrax.com/oldmansquad. And then I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a Patreon now. I'm kind of embarrassed because it's not a thing that I really ever intended to do. And I don't care if none of you sign up, and I don't care if all of you sign up. I'm going to do the same absurd amount of stuff for free here, Twitter, whatever. I want to give you all the information I possibly can to help you win your fantasy leagues. This is just because a bunch of people were like, Dan, we want to give you some money for all your hard work. And I was like, oh, fine. But I set it at $1. So you can't give me more than $1. That's it. You can't give me more than like what I send my kids with to Sunday school to go buy a bagel or a bag of Little Bites or something. That's it. You're buying my kid a Little Bites. What is that? It's patreon.com/oldmansquad. I don't even know how to give the right promo. Whatever. Let's talk about the next guy. Next guy is Tyrese Maxey. And I'm successfully now sharing his player page. Maxey is, I don't know, man. Nobody seems to want him. Which is not true because we've had, was that Steve? Might have been Steve that said he was a Maxey guy. Or was it Piss. I'm going to forget who did it. Sorry, guys. Feel free to comment on who the hell actually said Tyrese Maxey on this show, and I've totally screwed it up. Maxey had 26 points, 3 threes, 3 boards, 6 assists, 1.8 steals, 44-88 splits this past year. That was good enough for top 10 in 9 category leagues. He's not a particularly high turnover guy, which is also super fun if you feel like being even remotely competitive in that department, which I generally do like to be. But the points of smile concern is that Maxey's never been anywhere near 1.8 steals a game before. That came completely out of nowhere because over his previous 3 years, which, by the way, were all full starters minutes seasons, he was right around 0.8 steals per game. And then 1.8, I don't know. So I like Tyrese Maxey. I think his field goal percent will be better if he plays alongside anyone else that's good at basketball. I think his 3-point percent was weirdly low this year, probably because he was the only guy that teams had to worry about guarding. But a lot of the other stuff can stay somewhat consistent. Usage coming down, efficiency going up. Does that stuff cancel each other out? Do we even ever see Joel Embiid again? Supposedly he's going to play this year, but I'll believe it when I see it. Same story with Paul George. I think you draft Tyrese Maxey as if he's still kind of a one-man gang, and you hope that the steals hold, because if they don't, he falls from a first rounder to more like a, late second, early third, which is kind of where you're taking him here. And then if Joel Embiid comes back, if Paul George, I don't even really care about Paul George. He's not going to change Maxey much. It's really if Joel Embiid comes back, that's how Maxey falls a little bit farther. So that's the fear with Maxey, is that he has first round upside, but he does have kind of like late third, early fourth round downside. And if you split the difference, you get late second round. So I think he's a very reasonable, this is where he belongs, because there is unknown that creates a little bit of a wider confidence net on where Tyrese Maxey is actually going to end up this year. He could be number 10 again, or he could be number 37. I would be not at all surprised to see either of those numbers. So you take him around 20, call it a day. It's fine. The other options here are really not better. So I like him in this spot. I think that's totally fine. Again, that was Tyrese Maxey we're talking about, just in case you lost track of it. Next name on the board is Alperen Thompson, who is another one of our big movers in this latest board reshuffling. He jumps, and he's been jumping a lot. He actually started at 35 and went down 3 spots. I never quite understood that one. But he has come roaring back. Went from 38 to 31, and from 31 to 19 over the span of about 3 weeks. Can you say he cut his pre-rank in half? I guess. It's a big jump, though, to go from early 4th round to mid-2nd round in pre-rank. And you're going to have to pay through the nose if you want Amen Thompson this year. Trying to figure out exactly what Amen Thompson is going to be this season, I think, is pretty damn hard. Freddie VanVleet is out, so he's going to have to do some point guardery. But a lot of the offense is going to run through Alperen Sengun and Kevin Durant. Still, with no true point guard that they really, really trust, Amen's going to have to play a little bit at that position on the floor. Even if he's not, a traditional floor spacing, bring the ball up the court kind of point guard. Over the final 2 months last year, Amen Thompson was number 33 in 9 category leagues. Over the last month, he was number 13. It's worth pointing out, he actually played fewer minutes over that final month. So it's more of a sample size issue, where over that last month, he was averaging 3.6 combined defensive stats, whereas prior, over the most of the year, he was more in the 2.5 to 3 range. Both very, very good. What the actual final number is this year, kind of hard for us to say. I would assume it's something like what he did over the entirety of the season, which was 2.7 combined defensive stats. But he's such a freak athlete that it could bounce up, and we shouldn't be surprised if it does. I think Amen Thompson is, in straight 9-cat, probably going to be ranked around 25 to 35. something in the realm of 15 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks, good field goal, weak free throw. Do the turnovers come up a little bit? I don't know, maybe, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. But he's also a magical fantasy player because he has 2 to 3 punts, any of which fit a non-guard build. And you guys heard me talk about on the first rounder show how much I hate the guard build right now because everybody's fighting for the same 3 guys in each round. Amen Thompson fits the punt threes build if you're working on a Shea or a Booker type team. He fits a punt free throw build if you're working on a Giannis team or just a Bigs team like the Anthony Davis build. He fits a punt points team if you're going down maybe I'll go James Harden punt points or Domantas Sabonis and punt points. And obviously prior years, it would have been Tyrese Halliburton and punt points. These are all more, or say less common punts. Punt free throw is relatively common, but like punt threes, punt points are less common than the percentages. And Amen Thompson fits into those different boxes. So that's part, I think, of why his appeal is so great, is that he's versatile. He's versatile because he's going to be good enough in Roto, even if he's a third rounder you draft in the second round. And he's versatile because in head-to-head, in 3 different unique builds, he is better than that third round marker. So just start toggling. Just start playing with the numbers over on Basketball Monster. Hell, I'll share the tab while I'm doing it right now on air. Here's the Rockets over the last 2 months last year. There's Amen Thompson's numbers. He was at about 15, 8.5, and 5. And if he was ranked number 33 in 9-cat over those, it was like 25 games, and he missed a handful of them. If you punt free throw, he jumps to number 12. Wow. If you punt threes, he jumps to number 13. Neat. If you punt points, a Dan Besbris favorite, he jumps to number 17. He is so well-rounded, he is not even well-rounded anymore. Isn't that weird to think? He's like so well-rounded that he's not well-rounded. We think of Amen Thompson as a guy who's just good at a ton of things. The thing about Amen Thompson is he's really, really good at rebounds for a multi-position dude. He's good at assists for a multi-position dude. He's great at both defensive stats. He's solid at field goal percent, and he's got low turnovers. So he's like pretty damn good at 6 things. And so in our mind, you're like, wow, that's a lot of things. But the things he's not good at, he's pretty bad. Those are really cool players to isolate when you have like 6 good, 3 bad. They're really uncommon. Really uncommon. Usually it's like 3 amazing things and then a whole bunch of middling things and 2 mediocre things or something like that. But Amen Thompson is so versatile because the things he's good at, he's real good at. And the things he's bad at, he's pretty bad at. But there's so many more good than bad that he fits into all these spots. So yeah, you're going to have to take him at 19 if you want him. I'm fine with you taking him there. I don't think he's going to be number 19, but I also don't care. Who the hell is next? Jalen Brunson is next. Good podcasting, Dan. Who the hell? Makes me think of that Family Guy bit with Wilford Brimley. Jalen Brunson, lots of points, lots of assists, good efficiency, and a game that doesn't really seem to translate to fantasy all that well. And we talked about this a bunch when we covered the Knicks on one of our team review episodes. Jalen Brunson is like the ultimate in head scratchery on why doesn't the 9-cat stuff add up. And the answer is because he's basically the flip of what we just talked about with Amen Thompson. Jalen Brunson is very good in points, assists, and free throw percent. But he's pretty bad in rebounds, blocks, not very good in steals for a guard. Turnovers are kind of on the high side. Yeah, he has a couple of things where he's kind of middling, like field goal percent is middling, threes are middling. But the reason that his 9-cat value will just never be that high is that the things that he's weak at, he's just a little bit too weak at. And it's kind of stupid. Jalen Brunson is one of those players where 9-cat ranking, there's no real rank board that makes him look good. Because you're not going to take Jalen Brunson and say, oh, I'm punting rebounds. He's a guard. Well, how many rebounds were you hoping to get out of your guard? But that's the thing, though. A guard that gets you 4.5 rebounds, where everything else is the exact same as Jalen Brunson, is probably like 5 to 10 slots higher in ranking. So it's those little things. And like, compare Jalen Brunson to Devin Booker from last year is a fun little thought experiment. Both guys, where the hell was Brunson? He was 40, late 40s or something. Where were you? Oh, 50. He was 50. Jalen Brunson, 26 points. Devin Booker, 25.5. Booker, 2.4 threes. Brunson, 2.3. Brunson, 2.9 rebounds. Booker, 4.1. Both guys right around 7 assists. Both guys, 0.9 steals. Both guys didn't block any shots. Both guys, okay field goal percent. Brunson a little better there. Booker significantly better at the free throw line. Both guys, turnovers in the mid to high 2s. There are a ton of areas where those two dudes, Jalen Brunson and Devin Booker, are putting up almost the same fantasy numbers. And yet, at the end of the day, Booker's probably going to be 2 rounds or more higher than Jalen Brunson. Last year, he was a round and a half ahead, and that was when Booker was playing alongside Kevin Durant. Why? Well, the extra 1.2 rebounds is a pretty big reason why. The free throw thing was the other one. You can't really, there isn't a perfect name out there. Booker is one of the closest, but like, who did the exact same thing as Jalen Brunson but got a couple more rebounds? There isn't the perfect one. But that's what I want you guys thinking about when you try to think through these numbers. How much does that really matter to my head-to-head team? Probably not a ton. But to my roto team, all of a sudden you're talking about 65 to 100 rebounds over the course of a year. That does matter. Look at, you probably can't. It's probably been wiped out by the sands of time. But if you could go back and look at your rebounding numbers in your Roto League from last year and find out, like, how much better would my team have been if I had 100 more rebounds, I bet you get an extra Roto point. I bet you were within 100 of somebody. Or someone was within 100 of you on the other side. So these little things that seem like nothing are worth a half round, a round of value. Again, like, Booker's going to be farther ahead because of the free throw thing, but going from being very, very bad in rebounding to just being subpar matters. It really does. So that's why Jalen Brunson is never going to be this guy. Hope though we may, he's not going to be a second rounder without another infusion of usage because his peripheral stats are low. And I hate it because otherwise he's got all the old man trappings, a high percentages guy with somewhat low turnovers who gets you assists, but he scores a lot. So he's never going to fall as far as an old man squad team would want him to. I would take Jalen Brunson in the mid-third round if he gets that far, but he won't anymore. Well, Jalen Williams. Let's just talk Jalen's for a while. How about that? What say you, friends of this program? We have one more, but he's actually not till number 24. Jalen Williams, this is going to be my shortest assessment of anybody on the board. He's fine. He's absolutely fine right here. Jalen Williams was a late second rounder last season. I expect him to be a late second rounder again this year. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we get lucky and the field goal percent ticks back up just the littlest bit. But even if it doesn't, I don't care. He's number 24. There are a handful of guys that are injured in front of him. He should be right around number 20 this coming season. Absolutely. Totally fine. I have nothing to add. If you're worried about a championship hangover, I mean, he only played 69 games last year before the playoffs. I don't know that they're going to go a whole lot easier on him than they already did, but I guess you could be a little bit worried about that. Still, I'm not. I think this is fine. He's a late second guy. That's where he's going. Book it. Alperen Sengun is a discussion that I've had a number of times on this show, and at this point, I don't care if you agree with me or not. I don't like him as a second-round pick in category leagues. The Freddie VanVleet injury does make him slightly more appealing. But to me, Sengun, by the way, he was number 90 without a punt last year. Obviously, punt free throw gives him a nice boost, but that only brought him up to number 44 last season in 9-cat. In 8-cat, it got him up to number 37. So you're inching closer to where he gets drafted. But I don't think you can make a case that Sengun should be both an 8-cat player and a punt free throw player and also be a round and a half ahead of where he was last year. I think he's probably going to mostly replicate what we saw last year. So he's just not a guy that I'm taking in the second round. It's as simple as that. He's not going to fall as far as I would need him to take him, which is like probably early 4th round. And even then, I don't know that I would take him in 9-cat if I wasn't punting free throw. I would take him in the 4th round if I was punting free throw. Yeah. If not, I don't think so. So like, I don't really care. I don't know. Everybody always ends up yelling at me like, "Oh, Dan, Alperen Sengun's so good." Yeah, he is. I don't have any actual beef with him. It's weird the way that like my feelings on whether someone is being over or under drafted get conflated with my actual feelings about a player. I don't care about any of these guys. They are numbers to me that have names attached to them for the purpose of me telling you who I'm talking about. Alperen Sengun is a 19-point, 10 rebound, 5 assist player. I don't care what the hell his name is. I don't care. But he's also a guy that shot sub 70% on a lot of free throws last year. So why draft him in the second round if you're not punting free throws, for one? You really should not. Why draft him in the second round anyway? Yeah, I mean, he fits certain builds, like maybe a punt blocks build or punt free throw big man. You can go punt free throw big man build where you're attacking assists instead of blocks. Yeah, I mean, he does some stuff. Good rebounds, good assists for a center. Pretty good scoring for a center. I don't care. It's not enough. I move forward. Chet Holmgren back into the second round. I say back because that's where he was getting drafted last year, sometimes even in the first round. And so far, I've gotten Chet Holmgren right 2 years in a row. Backed him in his rookie year, faded him last year. We nailed both. This year, I really liked him at 32, where he was ranked 4 days ago. At 23, he's where he belongs. I got to give Yahoo credit. On their board that they put out, their third revision board, which was on September 22nd. That was the board before this most recent one. In the top 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I had 7 or 8 players that I thought were either way too high or way too low. On the new board they just put out, 3. I got 3 guys that I think are too high or too low. Actually, it might even be 2. I guess it depends on what you classify my Steph Curry feeling at 16. I think he's still probably too low, but it's not an absurd amount. I think it might be 3. Jalen Brunson's too high. Sengun is too high. Steph Curry's too low. It's kind of it. Donovan Mitchell maybe a little too high. Anyway, Chet Holmgren is right now. So bye-bye value. Hello, properly ranked Chet. I just think he goes back to more like what he did his rookie year. Well, from a fuzzy numbers standpoint, if we're going to just sort of say, oh, what do we think? What do we need to get out of Chet? I think he just, we need him to get back to 29 minutes instead of 27 and get the field goal percent back up, presumably not playing hurt. Hopefully the free throw percent comes with it. And then everything else can kind of hold. So I think you got a second rounder on your hands, which was fun when you could get him third, but not as interesting when it's in the second. But it's fine, though. That's fine. There's a lot of it's fine now. It's fine. Jalen Johnson is a mixed bag for me. I love his per-game potential. He finished at number 21 last year, so again, you sort of artificially push him up via the removal of Dame, Halliburton, Kyrie, Tatum. I mean, Kyrie will probably come back at some point, but that would have made him number 17. If Vooch falls out, that would make Jalen Johnson number 16. If Kawhi moves in, that pushes him back down. In any event, I think Jalen Johnson could be a first rounder per game this year. I am not worried about the Kristaps Porzingis thing. Jalen Johnson was looking better and better and better the farther into the season we got last year. He got off to a little bit of a slow start and then started hitting his free throws and the turnovers came down and he was awesome. But he played 36 games again. And now we are 4 years into Jalen Johnson's NBA career. 2 of them where he basically wasn't asked to do anything at all. 2 since he's been pushed to be a starter. And in the 2 that he's been starting, he missed 26 games and 46 games. Yeesh. I can tell you with full honesty, I don't know how many games Jalen Johnson's going to play this year. I'd rather get him in the 3rd round with the injury risk hanging over him. It doesn't look like that's going to be a possibility. But I've also been saying, like, I want to play it somewhat safe early in drafts. I don't want to take guys that I'm worried are going to miss a ton of games. But Jalen Johnson feels like that kind of risk. But it's not nagging stuff either. It's big things. He's missing big chunks of basketball when he gets hurt. But man, 19, 10, and 5 last year. 2.6 defensive stats. Over a 3-pointer. He was a 1.5 guy. He was a monster. One of the most well-rounded players in all of fantasy basketball, especially if the free throw number comes up even a tiny bit more. Holy crap. Like we are entering Kawhi Leonard land of 9-cat appeal. If the 3-pointers, if he makes an extra like 0.4 3-pointers a game and gets his free throw up to 77 or 78, holy moly. So I love him as a per game guy, but I'm also afraid. I am afeared of Jalen Johnson. I am afeared he's going to play 46 games this year and tank my team. The problem is you got LeBron behind him, but then you got a whole bunch of guys that I don't think people are particularly excited about after that. So do you go Jalen Johnson or do you reach down and you do like a Jamal Murray or a Pascal or a Josh Giddey or a Derek White? What do you do in this spot? I think you almost have to take Jalen Johnson there and just take the risk. But good Lord, what if you had Nikola Jokic? You don't need to take a risk. You can do anything there as long as the player plays and your team's going to be great. These are the decisions that are going to make your sphincter pucker. But it's why we play. So anyway, maybe play it safe. I've been trying to tell you guys to play it safe, and I feel like every time I'm presented with the opportunity, it happens every offseason. I say I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to do it. I'm going to really do it this time. And then it gets to October, and I'm like, yeah, but look at how good Jalen Johnson is. Goodness gracious. Hey, hit that subscribe button before you leave us. Like that video before you leave us. And check out our partners at fantrax.com/oldmansquad, patreon.com/oldmansquad. FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook, our presenting partner here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, a member of the Believe Network, and the HOF app, which I once again forgot to tell you about in the middle of the program. Head to hofapp.com or download the HOF app on your smartphone. Check it out today using promo code SQUAD, SQUAD, to get a free week to test it out and half off the following month if you let it ride. HOF app will make you a better using projections, analytics, and tens of thousands of data points to tell you what's going to happen before it happens. Wipe out the worst leg of your parlay. Help build some ATS and money line looks that are more likely to pan out. Look at trend lines on players, matchups, all things at once in a handy-dandy app, and go win with the HOF app and hofapp.com using promo code SQUAD. Sign up today. I am Dan Vespers on social media. Thanks for watching again, everybody. Like, rate, subscribe on your way out, and we'll see you soon.